There's something that's been bothering me for quite a while, and it continues to creep up over and over and over again. And it's this idea of a photo cam. It's not a real video camera. It's not a video camera. It's a photo cam, and I want to talk about it. But before we get started, like this video, hit the subscribe button, and consider joining the channel. Channel members get exclusive access to Filmmaker Alchemy, behind-the-scenes lessons and insights on the business of video production. Learn how to turn your content into gold. Now, I'm not quite sure where this video is actually headed. I'm almost just talking freeform. I haven't really evaluated my thoughts properly on this, but I know that it bothers me, so I know I wanted to talk about it. And maybe by talking about it, I can land somewhere and figure out what I actually think or feel about this topic. You see, this has come up recently with the Lumix S1RII Mark II. The announcement rolls out. Panasonic talks about it as a camera for creators. It's a hybrid. It's got two tally lights, right? When you're recording video, these tally lights will light up so you know you're recording video. It's got two record buttons. It can shoot ProRes. It can shoot RAW. It can shoot 8K. It can shoot uncropped, 4K 60, all these great video features. And yet time and time again, as progress, as we move on, you see in the comments, you see on forums, people constantly saying this is a photo cam. You can't judge it too hard. You can't criticize it for the rolling shutter or the overheating potential issues that are out there because it's a photo cam. This isn't a video camera. It's not the real video camera. That's going to be the S1H Mark II. That's the real video camera. And yet Lumix has decided to market the S1R2 as a true hybrid. This is the best hybrid they've ever made. At least that's what they'll tell you. And this is really frustrating for me because it really sends mixed messaging. The company itself is telling us all that this is a great hybrid. It's amazing for both video and photo. But anytime you criticize those video features, people will be quick to respond in the comments saying, this is just the photo camera. Give it some slack, give it a break. And this goes all the way back to the Canon R5 when that first launched back in 2020, I think it was. The Canon R5. Everyone knows, the overheating was such a big issue, yet also a non-issue. There were workarounds. It seemed more like a timer than actual temperature control, the Canon R5. And yet most people will defend that camera and those features by saying, well, that's the photo cam. Wait for the video version. And obviously Canon did come out with the R5C, the more expensive version of basically the exact same camera, just marketed to the people who want video. And then they have to pay a price. They have to pay a premium for that exquisite benefit of being able to shoot video, even though the first camera, the R5, was marketed as a hybrid that can shoot video and photo. And I'm getting really sick of these products that come out, with these, people will call it the cripple hammer, or, it's at least compromise or restriction or some kind of issue when it comes to half of the product. So a hybrid can shoot photo and video. And yet there will be versions of these cameras that have restricted features when it comes to video, overheating, rolling shutter. Maybe it's missing things like shutter angle. Maybe it has recording limits. Who knows what the restriction might be, but there's these hybrids that are for photo and video. And yet the video side of the equation is compromised or restricted in some way. And then they'll roll out another version of basically the exact same product that has those video features unlocked or unrestricted. And yet it almost comes with this higher price tag, this premium cost for people who just want to shoot video and photo, do both well. And I find that kind of irritating, kind of frustrating. If the S1H Mark II comes out with basically the same features as the S1R Mark II and yet just costs more because now it's the video version, that's going to be really disappointing. It's going to be really frustrating because what I would prefer is that these hybrids, if they're going to market them as hybrids and say it can do all these great video features and all these great photo features, have them do both equally well. And I get from the photographer's perspective why this is so frustrating as well. Many photographers, there's plenty of them out there. Maybe you're one of them. You just want to take pictures. You don't even care about the video features. And yet these companies continue to add red record buttons, 2 of them. They'll add tally lights, 2 of them. They'll give you ProRes. They'll give you RAW. They'll give you 4K 60 uncropped. They'll give you 8K. They'll give you 8K 60. And the photographers are sitting there going, I just want to take a picture in a premium professional body that can do high burst rates. It can do the pre-burst. It can do all these cool photo features, but that's all they care about. And yet they are being charged more because it's got all these great video features. And yet the video people are sitting there going, but it doesn't do enough. It doesn't do it reliably. It overheats or it's restricted in some annoying way time and time again. And so then they'll roll out the actual true real hybrid, which everyone just calls the video camera, but yet it can do the photo stuff equally as well, almost always. The photo side on these video cameras is not usually all that restricted when it comes to the hybrids. Of course, there are video cameras that don't do photography all that well, and those are true video cameras, but that's usually not what a lot of us want these days. We want a hybrid because we want to take thumbnails, we want to take photos, maybe it's for an article, maybe it's for a print, maybe it's for a social post. I don't know why you're taking a photo, but you usually want to take photos when you're on a shoot as well as doing video, whether that's a documentary, a short film, a music video, content for YouTube or social media. I don't know what it is you're doing, but time and time again, when you're on a shoot, you usually want to take photo and video, and having a true, real, good hybrid that does both equally well is so valuable. And that's why I think cameras like the GH5 sold incredibly well. You look at something like the S5 Mark II hasn't sold incredibly well because they're actually that realization of the true hybrid, a camera that can take really good photos and can shoot really good video uncompromised. Now, there will be special versions of these cameras released. I think back to the GH5, and the GH5S came out as more of a niche. Hey, you're going to lose the IBIS, but we're going to give you better low light. And that can matter for certain shooters, whether it's photo or video. We're going to reduce the resolution on you on the GH5S, but that's going to give you that better performance in low light. Certainly a popular option for people who want that, but not quite as popular as the mass appeal GH5. GH5 did so well, they even made a GH5 Mark II that no one really was asking for, but they did it anyway. And I assume it sold some units, but not as many as the original GH5. But then obviously GH5 was, not full frame, didn't have great video autofocus. So they've, continued to roll out things on the Lumix side of the equation with the S cameras going full frame, now having phase detect autofocus, so good, reliable autofocus in video. And you see this pattern across the board. Nikon, a photography company, bought Red, a digital stills and motion company, a film company, a Hollywood style company. Nikon bought Red for the video components, right? Canon has continued to advance their video features in their hybrids and has had some success, I think, on the higher end lineup with things like the C70, etc. These are popular cameras for the people who want them, but maybe not the mass appeal. And then you look at Sony has certainly done a great job capitalizing on this hybrid market. People who want to shoot photo and video and do both well. And there will be the cameras like the FX3 or the A7S III that are targeted more for video, but they can still shoot great photos. And I think this mindset needs to become more embraced, having both done equally well in the camera. And I think the S1R Mark II actually hits that mark. I think Lumix did a great job with the S1R Mark II in terms of offering both features that photographers would like and videographers would like, making it a hybrid. But I don't like the people who come out and say you can't criticize it for the video features because it's not a video camera, it's a photo cam. That, I think, is where it's unfair. And so I think my issue is maybe more around the social mindset of these cameras, of these products. I think we should be able to call out their limitations so that other people can understand what they're signing up for. If you go buy a camera and all of a sudden it has these restrictions or these issues that you weren't expecting because no reviewer told you, nobody mentioned that it could overheat, nobody mentioned that there may be issues with rolling shutter, etc. Maybe it doesn't apply to everybody, but just the knowledge that it's there is important. And saying you can't talk about that or it's not a criticism because this isn't a video camera, this is a photo camera, I think is just unfair. It's an unfair defense in 2025. This was an unfair defense 10 years ago because these cameras were still doing, 10 years ago, we had great 4K video on these hybrid cameras. If you're looking at something like the GH4, the GH5, etc. The video photo hybrid has been around long enough that we shouldn't pull punches and hold back criticism just because, oh, go easy on it. It's the photo camera. That's not fair to criticize the video features or just even mention the restrictions when it comes to video because it's a photo camera. Shh, don't tell anyone that, hey, it overheats, or hey, the rolling shutter could be an issue. That's valid information that someone could, like you or me or anyone else, could then make an informed decision about buying the camera, renting the camera, using it for a particular job, because now we know what we're signing up for. And I think that information is not a don't buy a stamp, don't buy this because of X issue. It's pointing out the issue, and to come back and say, well, this is the photo camera, that's not fair. It just doesn't fly in my book anymore. In 2025, it didn't fly 5 years ago, it didn't fly 10 years ago for me. And yet is still to this day, people will constantly call out and say, well, this is the photo camera. None of these cameras are photo cameras anymore. They're just not. They have too strong of video features to be labeled as this is just for photographers. I know photographers who would love a photo camera. They would love to not have all this video junk in there because they just want to take pictures, but they can't anymore because the hybrid market is too strong. It's too powerful. It's too much of a sales proposition for customers. You want to buy one camera that can do both photo and video, so they're going to give it to you. They're going to give you 8K 60. They're going to give you 4K 60 on crop. They're going to give you ProRes. They're going to give you RAW. They're going to give you log. They're going to give you all these amazing video features. And photographers are sitting over there going, I wish I could just buy a photography camera that didn't have any of this junk, and I was actually getting a discount, a deal for not having those video features. And maybe that would be smart for these companies to just differentiate that in that regard. If you're not making video cameras, which most of these companies are to a certain extent, they're making broadcast cameras, they're making cinema cameras, they're doing some kind of E&G style camera. They've got these hybrids, and maybe they do need to differentiate a little bit more and say, this is the professional premium flagship that only does photo, and maybe it comes at a discount. And maybe those hybrids can be better tailored and better optimized where the video features aren't crippled in a certain way. And then they have to just release another hybrid that's got better video features, but comes with a C designation or an X designation or a H designation, whatever it might be. I think the hybrids can succeed on their own and just be really good hybrids for photo and for video. I don't know why we're still getting these kind of, yeah, it's a photo camera, but also it's got these great video features, but they're not actually that great. They could be a little bit better, but wait for that version to come out later. And oh, by the way, you're gonna have to pay a little bit more for it. So buy this hybrid right now, and it's kind of a little bit lost. It's a little bit confused. I don't know who these products are necessarily for, because again, they're not for the photographers who just want to take pictures. And for the people who want the true hybrids, they sit there and they go, well, I'm gonna wait for the real one to come around, because this one kind of misses that mark. So I don't know what the strategy is or what the long-term business plan is for these companies to continue dabbling in this hybrid space, but still compromising too much on the video side of the equation. And yet we don't want video cameras. You're probably like me if you're watching this, or maybe you're at least maybe can share, you can sympathize, maybe is a better way to put it. The box cameras, the video cameras sell, but they don't sell nearly as well as these hybrids. You can go look, go check the reviews, go check the sales figures, go check the charts of what's being used for what. There's plenty of independent movies and documentaries being shot on these hybrids, whether it's A7 from the Sony lineup or the FX3, the FX30, also from Sony. Sony's very popular, killing it because of these hybrids, because you can take photo and you can do video really well in an affordable package. Yes, you can go get a Arri cinema camera. You can go buy an expensive Blackmagic camera and just shoot, just film. You could find a Red, but I don't know how viable that business model is anymore to keep investing in Red now that's been scooped up by Nikon. But hey, you can do it. You can go find them on the used market. Still probably great cameras. Lots of these cameras shot Hollywood blockbusters, which you can now find at a fraction of the price years later, of course. Still, maybe with some issues, because that Hollywood pipeline is meant for crews and big groups of people to work with expensive cameras, and they're not always as run and gun as you might like for a solo independent shooter, which is why the hybrids are so popular. There's a lot of people out there who are, one-man band, two-person team, and they just need to get the job done, and they need to shoot photo and video, and they need to create content of all shapes and sizes. And that's why these hybrids are so amazing, Back in the day, we called it the DSLR revolution, and it was really just this crazy concept of being able to shoot video with a photo cam. So yeah, in those early days, they were photography cameras that just happened to do video. And if you really wanted premium video features, you had to go find it elsewhere. You could sort of make it work with things like the 5D Mark II or even the GH1 way back when Nikon had their cameras, Sony had their cameras, but they really were photo cameras first. That quickly changed though. Once we got to the GH4, GH5, certainly I think hybrid was the new standard. And you've seen all these companies pay attention to that, catch up to that, and have great video features as alongside their photo features. And usually all they're missing is a built-in fan just to keep the thing cool, or removing some kind of recording restriction or limit, which used to be the case and is no longer the case. Maybe it's just implementing a better codec, because that's what we struggled with for so long. The video side of things, you'd have these terrible codecs. They were uneditable, such a pain. And now we have things like ProRes. We have really easy to edit H.264, H.265, whatever it might be. Options, flavors, frame rates for everybody. And it's really nice. It's a great world that we exist in with these hybrids that are popular by demand. They wouldn't sell if people weren't using them, if they didn't need them. Clearly, people want this type of camera. But I wish that those hybrids could be better versions of those hybrids. And maybe we have the photo-centric only SKUs. They just take pictures. They don't even shoot video. That's fine. Make them a little cheaper for the photographers. And then, yeah, there can be a whole world of video cameras for studios and bigger productions and that sort of thing. But I think there's like too many hybrid options where you're really trying to sift through like which is actually the good one, which is kind of the biggest pain now, that there's so many hybrids from all these companies, Canon, Nikon, Sony, Panasonic, Lumix, etc., where you're looking at them trying to discern, do I want the R5, the R5 Mark II? Do I want the R6, the R6 Mark II? What's the R7? What's the R8? What's the fundamental difference between these things? Nikon's got the Z8. I think they have a Z9. They got a Z6. I got the Z6 Mark III sitting right here, wondering, do I need the Z6 Mark III? Do I need the Z8? Which one is the good one? Sometimes it's hard to know. And really, the answer usually boils down to whichever one is the best hybrid. That's kind of why the S5 Mark II, I think, became so popular and sold so well relatively, because it's actually a really good hybrid. It's a full frame camera with phase detect autofocus. It's got 25 megapixel photos. You can shoot RAW. You can do all this cool burst stuff on the photo side, but on the video side, it's equally robust. And if you really want to pay the extra premium for a handful of extra special video features, you can get the S5 Mark II X if you really want, for those extra few bells and whistles for video folks. But even the S5 Mark II on its own is a great video photo hybrid style camera. And that's what I want more of, those products that it's just a clear, obvious winner. It doesn't overheat. It doesn't have weird restrictions or gotchas. Maybe it's compromised in a way where, 4K 60 is cropped and, hey, you're willing to deal with that because it's such a good deal. The price is so low. You're willing to accommodate that one restriction. And in general, I think the more of those products we can hit, the better. The S1R Mark II, I really have to see. I have to get my hands on it. I have to feel it out. I have to understand the overheating, the rolling shutter personally for my projects to really know, is this a true good hybrid, or is it the photo cam with just crazy video features that are also too compromised to be useful? I don't have an answer to that question right now, but it's weird that we even have to ask these questions considering how much this camera is being marketed as a hybrid, as it's for creators, it's for people who want to do both photo and video. And yet you run up against those limitations in video and immediately you go, well, then that's not my camera. That's not the actual hybrid. That's a photo cam with crazy video features that really is almost a true, great, perfect hybrid. And yet it's not quite perfect. And no camera is perfect. That's been the theme for the last 20, 50 years probably. There's no perfect camera, but there is definitely in this space at these different price points, there's usually the clear winner, the obvious choice, because everything else comes with too much compromise, too many trade-offs. And I wish that weren't the case. I wish we could have a handful of products that were perfectly designed for their end user, because that's what it's about. If you want to make the camera for photographers, make that camera. There's plenty of photographers out there who might want to just buy just the photo camera. And there's plenty of people out there who want the hybrids, but they need to be reliable hybrids. They need to actually do both jobs equally well. And there'll be people who say that's impossible, you can never do it. And yet I think time has shown that that's not true. For every generation, there's been the obvious choice for which camera to get, whether you like Canon, Nikon, Sony, Lumix, it doesn't matter. For every generation, there's been the one camera that is, oh, that's the good one. That's the one that everyone likes. That's the one that you recommend. That is the perfect camera for the time, for the environment, the marketplace, the types of content people are shooting, their needs, whether it's photo, video. So like I said, I wasn't really sure where this video was headed, and I don't even know that I have an answer, but I do know a few things. That I don't think we should be defending cameras and camera companies by saying it's a photo cam when they're all clearly making really powerful hybrids. Like, that's not a defense. It's not an excuse anymore. You can't say it's just a photo cam. Let's catch up to the time and say these are all hybrids, and let's call them out for whatever restrictions or compromises are there so we can make educated purchases. And then I think beyond that too, I just wish there was more clear designation from these companies and the products they're making, that they really spent the time to make good hybrids and then had their various SKUs for the people who want those specific things. Something like the GH5S, I think, is smart, even though it probably didn't sell as well as the main GH5. Probably nice to have for the people who want that thing. So make the box version, make the photographers only version. You can have a couple SKUs, but I think generally relying on this cornerstone, this foundation of this hybrid that can do both photo and video equally well, all in one body, I think that's probably going to sell the most and be the most popular. And yet, if you need something in particular, you can grab one of the others, but it comes with a drastically different body style or purpose. If it's a camera just for photography, that's a very easy differentiation to make as a customer versus having a bunch of hybrids that more or less all kind of do the same thing equally well, except some come with restrictions or caveats or gotchas that you have to watch out for after the fact. I think I'm kind of done with that. I don't really want any more of the, yeah, it kind of does a little bit of everything, but like, sort of not, you got to figure it out. I don't like that. I don't like having to discern all that information, going through all the testing and putting these products through the jumping through all these hoops, getting them to work the way I need them to work, hooking them up, building elaborate contraptions, DIY rigging to add a fan to the outside or plug it in a certain way or get a dummy battery or record externally. I don't want to have to deal with any of that nonsense anymore. I want a camera that can do what they say it can do on paper. So everything in the marketing, all the specs, all the features, it needs to be able to do that and do it reliably. And I think that's what everyone wants, because that's why those things are marketed. That's why those specs are called out. That's why those features are highlighted, because it is what everyone wants, except they never talk about the compromises or the trade-offs or the sacrifices that come with some of those things. And that's the part I want to get rid of. I don't think we should be paying for that stuff anymore. If you want the photo cam, get the photo cam. You want the box cam, get the box cam. If you need a specific video style ENG big shoulder mount thing, go buy that version. But for these hybrids that can do all of the above and more, they're shooting 8K 60 in some of these photo cameras. They're hybrids. They should be able to do both, and they should be able to do both well, aside from the small quirks of each of these companies where they always have little bugs, little weird things of how they operate, how they are set up by default, some of the stuff you got to tweak in the menus. All that is fine. We're not going to get rid of that. They're complicated devices. I'm not expecting perfection, because again, that's kind of a hard target to hit. But in general, if they say they can do something, if the features list it, I kind of want to just know that, yeah, it's going to do that and it's going to work well. And we all just know that these are hybrid cameras. Judge them for their video, judge them for their photo, and make your purchases accordingly.